Gary Nanson was a Los Angeles police officer for 33 years, and he worked as a lieutenant in charge of the gang unit in the San Fernando Valley. He recently retired and shared his perspective on gangs.
The gang problem is so many times larger and so many times worse than what the normal person understands. We talked about in your mind's eye what a gang member is. The gang problem is many times larger.
LAPD is known for its gang efforts. Chief Bratton hosts regular ComStat meetings where he posts the current crime statistics to show the effectiveness of his department.
This is our weekly ComStat meeting. It's held in this room each week, and I'd like to thank
Mayor Villaraigosa has joined Chief Bratton to highlight the success of his personally reappointed chief.
We've been able to reduce crime in our city and increase the public safety of all Angelenos. Crime is at an impressive low here in this city. In fact, this crime level has not been seen in our city since I was 3 years old. That was 1956.
Lieutenant Nanson has a different perspective.
I will tell you that the management of LAPD is absolutely committed to reducing gang crime. Absolutely committed. And they are working so hard to get the biggest bang for their buck, to find effectiveness. Largely the way that the Los Angeles Police Department, as with many other police departments, gauge effectiveness is by counting things. They count gang members, they count gang crimes, they count gang shootings and gang murders.
And does that reflect accurately whether you're being effective?
They bear no resemblance whatsoever. They're not even close. They're actually fairly meaningless.
Meaningless? He explained why these loudly trumpeted statistics are meaningless.
In regard to gang crime, we only count 12 crimes, and they're called the Part 1 violent crimes, and it's rape, robbery, homicide. We don't count narcotic involvement. And we kind of all know, since about 1978, when gangs started selling phencyclidine, PCP, down in Sherm Alley in southwest LA, since about 1978, gangs, they equal narcotics, right? We don't count narcotics.
So selling drugs, the main source of revenue for gangs in Los Angeles, is not acknowledged as a gang crime.
The weakness of the ComStat process, being it's largely number driven, is that sometimes the numbers aren't right. And when the numbers aren't right, when we use those numbers to make decisions and they're not accurate, we may make wrong decisions, or we may make wrong recommendations how to solve a problem.
We ask him to give us an example of how using faulty statistics can lead to faulty decisions in law enforcement.
First of all, most law enforcement agencies put about 90% of their efforts are putting gang specialists, like the gang officers who work for me, uniform officers in black and white, driving up and down the streets of Los Angeles looking for gang members. Gangs are in this next very natural evolution of gang crime. When I became an LA policeman in 1975, gangs didn't sell narcotics. We didn't have drive-by shootings. Gangs were primarily neighborhood-based, territorial. In the late 70s, they began to sell PCP. The Bloods and the Crips came on the scene. In the 80s, they began to sell rock cocaine, and gangs become involved as a business. They became narcotic sellers, but they had salesmen, distributors. They became a business. Today, we all equate gangs with the narcotic business. That wasn't always the case. That was this really big, massive evolution of gangs. The evolution that we're in now is actually much larger than when gangs moved into narcotics. Gangs are rapidly becoming models of organized crime. I mentioned earlier that we all have in our mind's eye what a gang member is, but the actuality of that is what a gang member was. In this new evolution, gang members are becoming heavily involved in white-collar crime, financial crime, identity theft, credit cards, loans in your name, business extortion. In order for them to be involved in organized crime, they can't really look like gang members anymore. If they have 18th Street on their neck, it's going to be hard to pass your credit card at Nordstrom's. So what I'm finding, gangs, as they evolve into this new model, just like they evolved into the narcotic trafficking model, they're very quickly shedding themselves of what I call the physicalities of being a gang member. Tattoos, gang clothing, lowrider cars. Now they're not having tattoos removed from their chest, those kind of things, only the visible tattoos. And they're driving sedans, they dress like us, and they're becoming very smart.
They are becoming so smart that they've become a part of our mainstream society. As opposed to shunning gangs, we have developed an entire industry around them.
This really isn't a gang crime problem anymore. We're way beyond that. Stop counting. They're wrong anyway. Gangs are now a culture. Gangs are their own culture. And this culture is institutionalized into our society. So let me tell you what that means. Gangs have their own language, their own sign language, their own music, rap music, their own movies. They're generational. They go from generation to generation. Gangs, their dress, their own artwork. Gangs are, in fact, a culture.
So it has become not only acceptable to wear pants around your knees, it's become a style of dress of the rich and famous. Movies and music glorify gangs and their lifestyle. How can law enforcement possibly respond to this indoctrination of negative reinforcement, especially the way it affects our youth?
The way we're responding to the gang crime problem now, we arrest them for committing a gang crime. We keep them in custody a while, we let them out, we put them on parole. That's how we respond to it. But I gotta ask you, has there ever been an effort that comes to your mind where we've wanted to eliminate a culture within our world and we've been successful?
What is the answer? There are those that question the political motive of our police officials who tell us that crime is down. They want us to believe that they are winning the war on gangs.
I look back to 1975. Keep in mind, we're the best in the world at investigating and arresting gang members, and gang crime and gang membership has absolutely exploded in the city of Los Angeles, and we're the best. We've exported our gang problem to other states. We've exported our gang problem to other countries. Can we really be proud and stand up in front of people and say, oh, homicides are down this year? It offends me. I'm just incensed. Okay, so now can you kind of see frustration when I have to tell policemen drive up and down the streets of LA? Is that going to affect the gang culture? Is that going to solve it? Solve it. When the city of LA keeps giving money here to things that aren't working, do you start to see how I feel?
His frustration is evident and understandable. So we ask him, what are we to do?
Gangs is a much bigger problem than what you think. The gang member in your mind's eye is 10 or 15 years ago. You're behind the curve. So is everyone else. Politicians, government, law enforcement. There's a few people like me that see what gangs are, see where gangs are going. Nobody's listening because it's easy to always do the things you've always done. Gary, just send your officers out there, tell them to drive up and down the streets and look for gang members. It's easy, it's comfortable. You know what else is easy? Let's count stuff. Let's count gang crime. Let's count gang members, and let's figure out whatever the number is. Let's figure out what we have to do to get the numbers down. Remember 1975 to 2009. We've been doing that now for 33 years, and the problem has exploded. And granted, every now and then we're able to say gang crime is down this month. Gang crime is down this year. And we've done such a good job. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. If we can really accept gangs as the #1 critical crime, not only a crime problem, it's much bigger than that. If it's the #1 problem our country is facing beyond the economy, of course, what's government's commitment? Right now, I'm not seeing it. The solutions are much bigger than what we're currently applying. Today, we're planning to fail.
Lieutenant Nanson reveals his plan to reverse and perhaps eliminate the gang culture in this two-part series. Is his plan too aggressive, too harsh, too severe? Or do you think it's finally time to get deadly serious about the gang problem? You can find out what he says and make up your own mind by watching the full program on your local cable television channel, or you can buy the DVD on our website. Full Disclosure will continue to bring you the news behind the news.